Hi, how you doing? Grade 5599 here in London town. Today is Monday, the 13th of July 2020, and we're going on to the second week of the 80% of the restrictions being lifted in the lockdown. We're down in Regents Park. This park is also the park that has London Zoo. The zoo is actually open. I remember during the lockdown they were saying the animals are actually missing. The animals are actually missing the people, so they're probably restricting the amount of people that are in and out. This here is the boating lake. No boats today, people rowing, but they got some white swans, if you can see across over there, and sometimes the swans would move from this section of the lake to the other section of the lake, and I've got many close-ups of the swan here in the boating lake. The Central Garden in Regents Park is closed today. It's a really beautiful garden. They really put a lot of effort into growing the flowers there. It is really, really nice. I think they call it the Queen Mary's Garden. It's probably a whole heap of history behind it. This is a royal park, one of the royal parks, and it's well looked after, and there is lots of restrictions when it comes to royal park. Even though it's got roads going through it, they don't allow any commercial vehicle through the street there, so that's one of the restrictions, just to drive through. But it's a beautiful place. The temperature today is around 24 degrees. When the wind blows, it's still quite warm. You're gonna have some gigantic insects flying around the camera. In fact, they're flies. They're gonna look massive. Blue bottles. The reason is the camera is on top of a Royal Park dog waste bin. It's the only thing I could find that could give me a clear view of the scene behind you. So if you see some gigantic insects, prehistoric, flying in front of the camera, is because the camera is on a poop bin. And yes, you know what flies do. Right, so today, Monday, 1 week after the 80% of the lockdown, the government has a major problem. They've done such a good job. They literally got people shitting themselves. Yes, people were shitting themselves. That's why at the advent of the virus, people was just buying out the toilet paper. They were, and around the world there was a shortage of toilet paper. And guess what? People are still shitting themselves because they don't want to leave their place, because there's still a virus out there, still killing people, and they haven't got the all clear. Well, they have got the all clear, but they feel that it's safe to stay at home because they don't feel safe. A good example is that the schools are open, but no one's sending their kids to school. And so come next month, 1st of September, if you don't send your kids to school, you're going to get fined. So the government wants everybody to start going to work. But meanwhile, the biggest debate at the moment is about the mask. The mask, yeah. And Now we have politicians actually wearing it. We have the MP, well, the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, wearing a mask. And we have Donald Trump in America wearing a mask. Donald Trump was the hardest one to get to wear a mask because wearing the mask would be a symbol or a signal that this thing is a serious thing. And he was telling some of his people, when I say his people, his fan base, that this wasn't so serious, but now his advisors have told him that, or he's figured out it's a bit more serious, so he's now wearing a mask. So that's the biggest debate at the moment. If you travel in London transport, on the buses, it is recommended you wear a mask, and you know, it is emphasized you wear a mask on London transport, especially if you're traveling in the tube. But I hear there isn't so much people using the tube as before, so they're trying to figure out how to get people to get back to work and start using the tube. I've used the bus, and at various times the bus conductor had emphasized, you know, that he wants you to wear a mask. In fact, with the buses, it only runs at half the capacity. Here's what it's meant to run at half the capacity, but I've been on some buses where it's actually they've added more people. You know, maybe it's an economical thing, an economics thing. Maybe it's just that that driver feels that he's a bit more secure. But Sunday, being out and about, when I got on the bus, it had a Chinese driver, and he tapped on the window, pointed to the mask, and I quickly went into my pocket and got my mask out. I didn't want him to get all Bruce Lee on me, but you know, the Chinese folks are the ones. When anything happens, you know, they're the first ones to wear a mask. They've been wearing a mask for years now, you know, so they know what it's all about. We're just learning what it's all about, you know. So that's the big thing at the moment. It's about the mask, and there might be, well, we don't know, depending on how things are. Well, I'll tell you how things are at the moment. On average, there's about 100 deaths a day from the virus here in the United Kingdom, because it's the United Kingdom is actually split up into Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and England, and there are various deaths from the different kingdoms, United Kingdoms. It's added up to about 100 a day. So that's not too bad. It had peaked to about 1,000 a day. Now it's dropped off, and it's tailing off. It might be a very, very long tail, and then rumor has it the virus might come back again with a vengeance. And it kind of makes sense, because the first time around, if it's an intelligent virus, the first time around it knocks out the first set of people, and it leaves the majority of people standing. So the virus might get smart. It might mutate, and he goes, right, this time around we're going to take out more. So that's only conjecture at the moment, but the tsunami of the virus is going through various parts of the world at the moment. Britain has had its high rate. Its peak was around literally 1,000 deaths a day. Now it's raging in America. New York was the first state, one of the first states, and it raged in New York. And the governor there, Governor Cuomo, is a great example, literally to the world, or the English-speaking world, of how to control the virus. And he was very honest, he was very straight. And what I loved about him, he also gave some of his own personal experience with his family. And he has a brother who's on CNN, and the brother interviewed the governor, and it's like it's fun to watch. They actually, there's a little bit of rivalry, but they're very serious. Both of them are very serious in their jobs, and I love you get to love them, really. You get to love them in a way that they've told you so much about them, about their whole family. Chris, the brother on CNN, did get the virus, and he was in quarantine. And and when they're having the conversation live on CNN, Governor Cuomo would say to Chris, I see your wife hates you. And he goes, why? He goes, that haircut she gave you, And so there'll be that kind of banter. It's interesting. But they're very, very serious. And Chris would retort back to his brother and say, well, what makes you so smart? What makes people like you so much? And, it's a beautiful experience. I mean, they're of Italian heritage, and, very passionate and very emotional. Some of the Italian people, and we love them for that. So, Governor Cuomo, one of the best example of how you handle the virus. And at the moment, it's on the tail end in New York, but it's peaking back up again. So Cuomo has said there is no internal, you cannot eat inside any restaurant or food place or what have you. You got to be outside on the street. And so he's kind of added that restriction or put that restriction back on. So, but they're in control. So they're in the long tail. But there's other states in America where it's raging like wildfire in California, and it's hitting a peak every day in a few of the states. I hear Texas, Arizona, California has gone through its peak, I think, and there's a few other states, and it's really so the virus is going through the world. So America is raging, India is on a high, and there are other places. The African continent is pretty low at the moment. The Caribbean islands are pretty low at the moment. The first place it hit, and it hit really, really high, of course, was China. The second place was Iran. So China has managed to keep it under control and almost next to eradicate it. Now, the eradication in China, so China is really, really strict now about people coming in and out, so they're keeping that under control. So they're next to zero, but they're very careful. So that's China. Then we have Iran. Not up to date with Iran, how Iran is doing, but I think they've gone over their peak and they're now on the tail. And this is it looks like it's going to be a very, very, very long tail. And the leader to follow is actually China, because China ain't over it yet. New York ain't over it yet, right? So for the English-speaking country, Governor Cuomo, he's a good example to follow of how to handle crisis, pandemic. And New York now is controlling the tail end. UK now, we are coming down